welcome to our coffee lecture series on infrastructures and tools. Today, Silke Bellanger from the University Library will present us the Open Science Framework. Silke, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the possibility of giving a really short introduction to the Open Science Framework. I will share my screen right now, and I will mix some slides and a short introduction and presentation on how to do something with the Open Science Framework. So what we're going to have a look at today is the Open Science Framework. The Open Science Framework is in particular an open science, also open source platform. It is an initiative by the Center of Open Science. It's a non-profit organization, and the background for the platform, but also the society, is mostly in psychology and in discussions about reproducibility and reproducibility crises. So it is relevant in the context of research data management, in particular in that context of reproducibility. And I will highlight there in particular one element and criteria, what you can do with the Open Science Framework platform. So the Open Science Framework, it is platform, it's a online platform, it's cloud-based, it has storage possibilities in the US, Australia, but also in Germany. So maybe that is important to keep in mind regarding any needs of data protection, to keep in mind that there is a possibility to store data via the Open Science Framework in Germany. So it is a platform, it is cloud-based, and it allows you a couple of things to do with a platform along your research lifecycle. I want to highlight 3 things, and in particular, the aspect of pre-registration, because that is quite important in the context of research data management. So, but in general, the Open Science Framework platform offers you a project site where it is possible to document, to inform about a project, a research project, to collaborate with others via wiki and the upload of files and the open or even also private sharing of different kind of data and materials. Then we have the possibility of the pre-registration of studies. I will go into that in the most time of my small and short talk. And then also there is the possibility via the Open Science Framework to do a publication, a preprint publication of your papers and your data. So what is maybe interesting to know that the Open Science Framework, though being an open source platform, it is also linked to different types of tools and services, some of them also non-profit and open source, others of them for-profit like Mendeley or Dropbox. But there are a couple of linkages and integration of tools that should be fitting with a lot of tools which are used in the context of your research. Okay, let's have a look, and therefore I'm going to share a couple of web pages. Let's have a look, how do the project sites look like? Okay. We are switching now into the browser, and you see here one researcher from the University of Basel, Jörg Rieskamp. He has an account with the Open Science Framework, and we can see here different activities by him. We see that he's sharing public projects together with other researchers, maybe PhD students, maybe other people from the University of Basel, or maybe also others. And yeah, so you have an overview. You can use Open Science Framework platform also a bit like a calling card for your research, making visible the different projects you're working on or you are part of. In addition to that, we also have the possibility, here an example by Jörg Rieskamp, to show projects and to show projects with a wiki description, what the project is about, to name the different contributors who are part of it, also to see what are the activities in the project. So in a way that is, for one part, it is showing to the public we are having a project, and we are also sharing files on our research project right away. But on the other side, this is also a possibility for you to use internally, not only publicly, but to use internally to keep track of different activities, documents, and data and publications during your research project. So it offers a possibility in a contributive community way to do project management for your research. A project normally consists of the starting page we are seeing here right now, then a section where you have the different files, which can be uploaded and shared also depending on your wishes privately to contributors or openly. Then you have the wiki where you can have ongoing documentation of the project. And then you have registrations where I'm coming to later on, where you see which part of this project have undergo a pre-registration, for example, for a survey. Okay, that is a project now by one individual researchers with a couple of collaboratives. We have here an example also how it could be used in a lab. So you have maybe a lab description, what they're doing, and then you have maybe also a structure to the project where you can divide and differentiate between lab resources, student projects, manuscripts, and further contributions and collaborations. So there is really a different. And the last examples I wanted to give is the LMU from the University of Munich. They have an open science center. They're more or less using open science framework as an open community orientated platform of sharing their activities and projects. So it's also thinkable to use it more like a community platform where you can gather all the information which are important for your common target you are addressing without maybe being a clear-cut limited project with a beginning and a start. Okay, these are the different possibilities of using open science framework as a for projects. I'm going further now in my slides and will address in particular now the pre-registration. Pre-registration, what is it about and why is it important for research data management? I want to shortly contextualize with the help of the slides of the colleagues in Munich, where pre-registration is located in the context of your research project. So you're starting a project and then you in most research areas, you are formulating a hypothesis and you have an analysis plan. And there it is possible with the help of a tool like Open Science Framework to register your study design and your hypothesis before starting to collect the data. Then you are collecting the data, maybe with an open lab notebook, as Michael presented last week, the ELN, and then you have to analyze the data. You can publish the data on one or other repositories, like for example, also on repository offered by DASH, which was introduced by Rita Gauci a couple of weeks ago. And then it's later also possible to share a report which was pre-registered where you announced already what kind of data are you collecting. So pre-registration is early in the beginning of your research process before starting to create and collect data, the possibility of informing others and documenting later on for also analysis what your plans of the study were before you had the data. And the pre-registration of studies tries to highlight in the research cycle in particular the moment where you're defining a research problem and you are defining a research question, and when you formulate an hypothesis and also have a study design before you collect the data. Main idea behind this, maybe it becomes evident also when we look at reasons for pre-registrating, is that a pre-registration of a study allows you to publish also the data, maybe if you have negative results. So it enables to show that your study design has been sound. Your hypothesis, you have to argue that you have different results, and then you can reflect on the hypothesis you have taken, but it allows you the possibility of showing that your research design was sound, but the data was nonetheless negative, and the answer to your research questions, is a negative one. In particular, this question came up, or this need came up in psychology and in the crisis of reproducibility of research results, where often enough there was a question if the results, when the results were not reproducible, if the study design was sound from the beginning on. Okay, let's see how you do it in the Open Science Framework. Okay, you enter with the Open Science Framework. I have to switch to my page. So I'm now logged in. You can log in into the Open Science Framework with your org ID or create a singular individual login possibility. And then you have the possibilities of adding registrations. For adding registrations, you have mostly two possibilities. Either you already have a project on the Open Science Framework as the ones I have been showing you beforehand, or you want to do a standalone registration of a study and you do not want to create a project site next to it. That would be, in that case, I'm going to show that we create a draft now of a pre-registration. And then mostly you're entering information about what your study design is, what is your hypothesis, what are informations about the studies you are able to give, what are the planned of types of analysis you're going to take, and if there are other information you need to contribute. So it's a fill-in that is really, really similar probably for your methodological section in your research proposal, and it also covers different elements you might know from a data management plan where you enter information about the data creation. So I'm not going through it, but you see that you have the possibility of being guided through a couple of questions. I want only to highlight that you have here the possibility of, if you want to share your pre-registered studies, you can attach a license to it, and afterwards, when it's published, if you're deciding if it will be published, you also will create a digital object identifier, which allows you to mention your pre-registered studies in publications and to make it always findable. I will show you now that is a template you are giving by the Open Science Framework. There are a couple of more examples of templates also provided, also PDFs you can do you can do offline and then upload to the Open Science Framework. And there are a couple of templates also a bit depending on different disciplines and in a differentiation between quantitative and qualitative data. Okay, how does it look like? So we have here an example filled in with the same template I was showing you blankly beforehand. We have here now an information about the study in itself, the research question, hypothesis, existing data, if there are, mentioning where they are, the procedures of data collection, sample size rationals, the variables with which this is worked, and what the design plan is, what the analysis plan is, and if there are any scripts or other related documents. So that is what more or less a pre-registered study can look like. Then you see on the right side, you see all the contributors. You can share writing pre-registered studies with others. You see also that it is associated to a project. It has an internet archive link, and it has a DOI, and is citable with a fixed URL. So just quickly have a look at the project, which is attached to this example registry of a study. You see here is the project site, and what I only want to highlight that they have a pre-data and a post-data collection report in which they may try to make transparent what were their plans and what were the results of the study. Okay, so it's a way of documenting what are you planning on doing with your data, what kind of data are you planning to have, and what are you doing with your data, and make it transparent for you and others, and in that way enabling also the reproducibility of studies and data. I'm shortly going back to my slides. Sorry. Okay. So what do you do with the pre-registration and a publication? You either can cite the DOI or the fixed URL I was mentioning beforehand. You mentioned it in a paper you're writing where you pre-registered a study, or you can also publish already a register report. That is an additional feature I shortly want to highlight. So a pre-registered report is that Together with the pre-registration of a study, you apply in a journal with the study design you are having, and the journal is deciding based on the study design if they are going to conditionally accept the paper or not. And then you write the report and you write the paper, and then the final decision on accepting your paper will not be based on the results of your study and the design, because that was already accepted, but it will only be based then on the research question. So the registered reports are, in addition to the registered, the pre-registration of studies, an initiative to make it possible to share also negative results. Okay, for the moment being, there are about 300 journals who are participating with the Open Science Framework in this pilot, where they offer the possibility of registering studies beforehand and accepting conditionally papers based on the study design. Okay, and at last I want to mention that the Open Science Framework also allows you to publish preprints. It's not the only possibility and platform to publish preprints. It's also collaborating with a lot of disciplinary preprints like SocArchive and PsycArchive. As all preprint servers, it allows you an editing and versioning of your preprints and the add of supplementary materials. So this was really a quick go through to the Open Science Framework, and I hope it was helpful for you.